The holographic display cast an eerie blue glow across the Confederation Council chamber. High Counselor Zixral adjusted his crystalline sensory appendages as he studied the primitive vessels crawling across Earth's orbit. The gathered council members, representing the most advanced civilizations in the known galaxy, didn't bother hiding their amusement. These ships, Zixral pronounced the word with careful disdain, still use chemical propulsion. Their hulls wouldn't withstand a single blast from our lowest-grade defensive systems. His statement drew knowing chuckles from the assembled representatives of the Helios Confederation, each of them surrounded by their own array of advanced biotechnological interfaces. Humanity's first contact with the Confederation had occurred just 3 standard cycles ago, when one of their survey vessels detected unusual radiation signatures from Earth's crude attempts at faster-than-light travel. Instead of the expected greeting protocols, the Confederation had simply begun recording and observing, treating Earth as an anthropological curiosity rather than a potential member of their alliance. The humans appear to be attempting to replicate quantum manipulation technology, reported Science Director Nevith, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with barely contained mirth. They're using crystalline structures that would barely qualify as decorative materials in our society. She gestured, and a hologram shifted to show various Earth laboratories and research facilities. What the Confederation failed to notice, however, was the purpose behind humanity's seemingly primitive approach. In one such facility, deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a lattice of crystals that pulsed with an inner light that defied conventional physics. Her team had discovered something the Confederation, for all their advanced technology, had never considered. The quantum crystalline matrices didn't need to be perfect to be powerful. The flaw is the key, she whispered to herself, watching as deliberate imperfections in the crystal structure created cascade effects that her instruments barely registered. The Confederation's quantum technology relied on perfect crystalline structures, grown over decades in zero-gravity environments. Humanity, lacking such luxuries, had been forced to think differently. Meanwhile, in orbit, Confederation observers continued their patronizing surveillance. They monitored human communications, analyzed their technology, and compiled reports that inevitably concluded with variations of the same theme. Earth was centuries, if not millennia, from achieving any significant technological advancement. Admiral James Martinez stood at the window of his office in the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the distant glitter of Confederation ships. Unlike many of his colleagues who felt intimidated by the aliens' presence, Martinez felt a quiet confidence. "Let them watch," he said to his assembled staff. "Let them think they know what they're seeing." The carefully orchestrated deception was working. Every time the Confederation scanned Earth's facilities, they saw exactly what they expected to see: a struggling civilization trying to mimic their betters without understanding the fundamental principles involved. They never realized that humanity's crude attempts at quantum crystalline technology were deliberate smokescreens. In the Confederation Council chamber, the discussion had turned to resource assessment. Their planet has significant deposits of rare minerals, noted Resource Director Clax. Perhaps we should consider offering them our protection in exchange for mining rights. After all, they clearly lack the capability to properly utilize these resources themselves. The proposal was met with general approval. It seemed like a perfectly reasonable arrangement to the Confederation. They would get access to valuable resources, and in return, they would protect Earth from other, potentially less benevolent spacefaring races. The fact that humanity might object to such an arrangement never crossed their minds. Back on Earth, in laboratories across the planet, humans continued their work. They didn't need perfect crystals because they had discovered something far more valuable: controlled chaos. Dr. Chen's team had learned that the very imperfections the Confederation would consider flaws could be used to create quantum effects that their scanning technology couldn't detect. They're so focused on perfection that they've become blind to alternatives, Dr. Chen explained to Admiral Martinez during one of their secure briefings. Their technology is like a perfect crystal, beautiful, powerful, but rigid. Ours is like water, adapting, flowing, finding new paths. The Confederation's dismissive attitude had given humanity something precious: time. While the aliens compiled their condescending reports and debated how best to help Earth, humans were quietly revolutionizing their understanding of physics itself. The quantum crystalline technology they were developing didn't just mimic Confederation capabilities. It approached the problem from an entirely different direction. As the first part of Earth's true fleet took shape in hidden facilities around the globe, Admiral Martinez couldn't help but smile at the irony. The Confederation's greatest weakness wasn't their technology. It was their certainty that they knew everything worth knowing. They had become so advanced that they'd lost the ability to imagine alternatives to their way of doing things. The Confederation Council concluded their session with a formal decision to present Earth with their protection proposal within the next cycle. They felt no need to rush. After all, what could possibly change in so short a time? As the council members filed out of the chamber, their crystalline interfaces glinting with complex data streams, not one of them wondered if they might be underestimating humanity. In her laboratory, Dr. Chen activated the latest prototype, the crystalline matrix, full of carefully engineered imperfections, pulsed with energy that rippled through quantum space in ways the Confederation's sensors registered as mere background noise. Ready for Phase 2, she reported into her secure communicator. The stage was set. Humanity had used the Confederation's contempt as a shield, working in plain sight, while being dismissed as primitive. Soon, very soon, the aliens would learn that perfection wasn't the only path to power. But for now, Earth waited, developed, and prepared, all while the Confederation laughed at their primitive attempts to join the galactic community. The Global Defense Council chamber hummed with tension as holographic projections displayed the latest Confederation surveillance patterns. General Sophia Patel stood before the assembled leaders, her expression grave but determined. The Confederation's protection proposal had arrived exactly as their intelligence suggested it would, wrapped in diplomatic niceties, but leaving no room for actual negotiation. "They had given us 30 days to accept their terms," she announced, her voice steady. "They believe this is generous, giving us time to realize we have no choice." The assembled leaders exchanged knowing glances. For 2 years, they had maintained the greatest deception in human history, and now it was about to pay off. In orbital shipyards invisible to Confederation sensors, humanity's real fleet was reaching completion. Dr. Chen's quantum crystalline breakthrough had led to developments that even she hadn't initially imagined possible. The imperfect crystals didn't just hide from Confederation detection. They actively manipulated quantum space in ways their rigid, perfect systems couldn't comprehend. Commander David Kumar walked through the pristine corridors of the UES Prometheus, humanity's first true quantum crystalline vessel. Unlike the blocky, primitive ships they allowed the Confederation to observe, the Prometheus was a marvel of organic design. Its hull, laced with deliberately flawed crystal matrices, seemed to pulse with inner light. "The crystal network is stable," reported Lieutenant Hannah O'Brien, her hands dancing over control surfaces that responded to thought as much as touch. "The Confederation's latest scan passed right through us. As far as they're concerned, this is still just empty space between Mars and Jupiter." The deception went far deeper than hidden ships. Every visible human facility had its shadow counterpart, working on real advances while showing the Confederation exactly what they expected to see. The aliens' own prejudices had become humanity's greatest advantage. In her Antarctic lab, Dr. Chen was putting the finishing touches on the fleet's core innovation. "The quantum resonance cascade is ready," she reported to General Patel via quantum-encrypted channels. "Once initiated, their perfect crystals won't just be obsolete, they'll be vulnerable." The Confederation, meanwhile, continued their patronizing observation. Their ships maintained their positions around Earth, their crews rotating through standard surveillance duties that had become routine and boring. Occasionally, they would detect what they thought were human attempts at quantum communication and document them as charming but failed experiments. Admiral Martinez stood in the Prometheus's command center, reviewing the final preparation reports. Each ship in the hidden fleet was equipped with Dr. Chen's quantum resonance technology. The imperfect crystals, working in concert, could create effects that the Confederation considered theoretically impossible. "They think perfection is strength," Martins mused, watching the tactical display showing Confederation ship positions. "They never considered that adaptation requires imperfection. Evolution needs room for change." The Global Defense Council had approved the final phase of Operation Shadowbreak. As the Confederation's deadline approached, humanity allowed their observers to see increasing signs of distress and division. Arguments in the UN, protest marches, and apparently leaked documents all suggested a civilization struggling to accept its inevitable submission to Confederation authority. Dr. Chen's team had made one final breakthrough just days before the deadline. They discovered that their imperfect crystals could actually draw power from the quantum wake of Confederation ships. The aliens' perfect technology was so predictable that it became a power source for humanity's chaotic approach. "Their perfection is a pattern," Dr. Chen explained during the final briefing. "And patterns can be predicted, manipulated, and disrupted." The assembled military leaders listened intently as she outlined how humanity's fleet could use the Confederation's own quantum fields against them. In orbit, Confederation observers noted with satisfaction the increasing signs of human acceptance of their fate. Their reports spoke of a primitive species finally recognizing its place in the galactic order. Some even felt a kind of paternal pride in how gracefully humanity was accepting the inevitable. 24 hours before the deadline, humanity began its final preparations. The hidden fleet moved into position, using the quantum blind spots created by Confederation ships' own energy signatures. Each vessel's crystal matrix was tuned to resonate with specific frequencies that the aliens' perfect systems wouldn't even recognize as technology. In the Prometheus's command center, Admiral Martinez received the last status reports. Every ship was in position. Every crystal matrix was aligned. Every crew was ready. Humanity had spent 2 years preparing for this moment, using the Confederation's contempt as a shield for innovation they never saw coming. "Send the final protocol to all ships," Martins ordered. "Operation Shadowbreak begins at dawn." As the orders went out through quantum-encrypted channels, he allowed himself a small smile. The Confederation had never bothered to look past their assumptions about humanity's capabilities. Tomorrow, those assumptions would shatter like the perfect crystals they prized so highly. In her lab, Dr. Chen watched the quantum resonance readings from the fleet's crystal networks. The energy patterns were beautiful in their controlled chaos, like a symphony of deliberate imperfection. "Sometimes," she said to her team, "the strongest structures are the ones with room to bend." As Earth's final night under Confederation observation drew to a close, humanity waited in ready silence. They had turned the aliens' greatest strength, their absolute certainty in their own superiority, into a fatal weakness. When dawn broke, the galaxy would learn that perfection wasn't the only path to power, and that humanity had found its own way to the stars. Dawn broke over Earth as the Confederation's deadline arrived. High Counselor Zixral stood on his flagship's observation deck, watching the planet rotate below with what he imagined was benevolent patience. His ship's perfect crystalline systems hummed in harmony, a symphony of technological achievement that humanity could only dream of matching. The first indication that something was wrong came from the quantum communication arrays. Subtle distortions rippled through the normally pristine signals, like stones dropped into a still pond. The Confederation's technicians dismissed it as background noise, their systems too rigid to recognize the deliberate patterns hidden within the chaos. "Deadline expired," announced Director Nevith, her bioluminescence pulsing with anticipation, initiating standard compliance protocols. But as she reached for the controls, the quantum distortions intensified. Suddenly, space itself seemed to ripple. The Prometheus materialized first, emerging from what the Confederation's sensors insisted was empty space. Its hull gleamed with an inner light that pulsed in patterns that defied the aliens' understanding of quantum mechanics. Behind it, Dozens of similar ships appeared, their imperfect crystal matrices singing in deliberate discord with the Confederation's perfect harmonies. Admiral Martinez stood on the Prometheus's bridge, watching the Confederation fleet through displays that showed quantum space itself. "Send the message," he ordered. Lieutenant O'Brien's hands danced across her console, initiating the carefully prepared transmission. In the Confederation flagship's command center, screens flickered to life with an image that shocked the alien observers. A human admiral, standing confident and calm. "This is Admiral James Martins of the United Earth Defense Force," he announced. "We have considered your generous offer of protection. We decline." Before the Confederation could respond, humanity's fleet demonstrated exactly why. The imperfect crystal matrices that powered their ships began to resonate, creating quantum interference patterns that the aliens' perfect systems couldn't compensate for. Confederation ships found their energy fields disrupted, their perfect crystals struggling to maintain harmony in the face of deliberate chaos. Dr. Chen watched from her command station as the quantum resonance cascade spread through space. "Their perfection is their weakness," she murmured, monitoring the energy patterns. "They can't adapt to what they don't understand." The Confederation fleet attempted to respond with standard combat protocols, but their weapons relied on the same perfect crystalline technology that humanity had learned to disrupt. Their energy beams dispersed harmlessly against quantum fields that shifted and adapted like water flowing around rocks. "Impossible," breathed High Counselor Zixrel as he watched humanity's ships move in ways his civilization had deemed theoretically unachievable. The imperfect crystals allowed them to slide through quantum space itself, appearing and disappearing at will, their very presence creating disruption patterns that weakened Confederation systems. Commander Kumar led the first attack wing, demonstrating capabilities that the Confederation had never imagined. His ships didn't just evade enemy fire, they absorbed the energy, their flawed crystals converting it into power through principles that defied the aliens' understanding of physics. "You believe perfection was the only path to power." Martinez's voice echoed through Confederation communications. "You never considered that imperfection might have its own strength. That adaptation requires the ability to change, to evolve, to find new ways forward." The Confederation fleet attempted to regroup, to adjust their perfect systems to counter this impossible threat. But humanity's technology didn't operate on principles they could counter. Each attempt to adapt their perfect crystals only made them more vulnerable to the quantum resonance cascade. Dr. Chen's breakthrough had given humanity more than just a way to hide their technology. It had provided a fundamental advantage that the Confederation's pursuit of perfection had blinded them to. The very chaos they dismissed as crude and primitive had become a weapon they couldn't defend against. High Counselor Zixrel watched in disbelief as his fleet's perfect formations fell into disarray. Human ships moved like schools of fish, their imperfect crystal matrices allowing them to flow through space in organic patterns that made traditional tactical responses useless. Each attempt to predict their movements failed because their very unpredictability was their strength. "We don't want war," Martinez continued, as humanity's fleet demonstrated their complete tactical superiority. "But we won't accept subjugation. Your protection isn't needed. Your assistance, should you choose to offer it as equals, would be welcome." The Confederation's response ships arrived to find their main fleet in chaos, their perfect systems disrupted by quantum interference patterns they couldn't even detect properly. Humanity's fleet danced through their formation, demonstrating again and again that perfection had become a limitation rather than an advantage. In her Antarctic lab, Dr. Chen monitored the quantum fields with satisfaction. "Perfect crystals can only follow their patterns," she explained to her team. "But imperfect ones can create new patterns. Evolution didn't strive for perfection. It strived for adaptation." The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than an hour. The Confederation fleet, for the first time in their civilization's history, was forced to retreat. Their perfect crystals, the pride of their technological achievement, had been rendered practically useless by humanity's chaotic approach to quantum mechanics. As the alien ships withdrew to safe distance, Admiral Martinez sent one final message. "We look forward to establishing diplomatic relations on equal terms. Perhaps we both have something to learn from each other about the nature of progress." The Confederation's certainty in their own superiority had been shattered, like the perfect crystals they prized so highly. Humanity had proven that there were other paths to advancement, paths that embraced imperfection, chaos, and the endless possibility of change. In the days following humanity's revelation, the Confederation's entire understanding of technological progress began to unravel. The High Council chamber, once a place of absolute certainty, now buzzed with uncomfortable questions. High Counselor Zixral found himself facing the most difficult session of his long career. "How did we miss this?" demanded Representative Clith of the Centauri worlds, their crystalline appendages flickering with agitation. "Our observations showed primitive technology, yet they developed something we never even conceived possible." The answer came not from the Council, but from an unexpected source. Dr. Sarah Chen had been invited to address the Confederation's leading scientists, an unprecedented honor for a member of a developing species. She stood before them now, her presence a living reminder of their misconceptions. "You looked for perfection," she explained, activating a holographic display of Earth's crystal matrices. "But perfection is static. Life itself is built on imperfection, on mutation, adaptation, and change. We didn't try to replicate your technology. We found our own path." In orbit around Earth, joint research teams of humans and Confederation scientists began studying the quantum resonance phenomena that humanity had discovered. The aliens watched in fascination as human engineers deliberately introduced flaws into crystal structures, creating effects that their perfect systems had never been able to achieve. Admiral Martinez and High Counselor Zixral met aboard the Prometheus, the human ship's adaptive crystal matrices humming in patterns that still confused Confederation sensors. "Your victory wasn't just technological," Zixral admitted, his usual confidence replaced by thoughtful consideration. "It was philosophical." Commander Kumar led demonstrations of human ships' capabilities, showing how their imperfect crystals could interact with quantum space in ways the Confederation had believed impossible. "The flaw isn't a weakness," he explained to amazed alien observers. "It's a doorway to new possibilities." The implications extended far beyond military applications. Human quantum resonance technology offered solutions to problems that had plagued the Confederation for centuries. Their perfect crystal systems, while powerful, were inflexible, unable to adapt to new situations without complete reconstruction. In her expanded laboratory, now staffed by both human and alien researchers, Dr. Chen continued pushing the boundaries of what was possible. "Every imperfection is an opportunity," she taught her mixed team of scientists. "Nature doesn't aim for perfection, it aims for adaptation." The Confederation's younger members embraced these new ideas with enthusiasm, while the older, more established civilizations struggled with the philosophical implications. Their entire society had been built on the pursuit of perfection, and now humanity had shown them that imperfection might be equally valuable. "They're not just learning our technology," Martinez observed to General Patel during a strategy session. "They're learning to question their fundamental assumptions. That's the real breakthrough." The quantum resonance cascade effect that had so effectively neutralized Confederation ships was being studied for peaceful applications. Human engineers discovered that the same principles could be used to enhance communication, improve energy efficiency, and even heal damaged crystal matrices. In space, the visible evidence of this paradigm shift could be seen in new ship designs. Confederation vessels began incorporating adaptive crystal sections alongside their traditional perfect matrices, creating hybrid systems that combined the best aspects of both approaches. "We were so focused on achieving perfection that we forgot why we started our journey to the stars," Zixral confessed during a private meeting with Earth's leaders. "You reminded us that exploration means being willing to embrace the unknown, the imperfect, the changing." The diplomatic landscape shifted as rapidly as the technological one. Earth was no longer seen as a primitive world to be protected, but as an equal partner bringing vital new perspectives to galactic civilization. The protection agreement was replaced by a mutual defense and research treaty. Dr. Chen's team made another breakthrough, discovering that the interaction between perfect and imperfect crystal matrices could create entirely new quantum effects. It's like a dialogue between order and chaos, she explained, each making the other stronger. The Confederation's military doctrine underwent a complete transformation. They learned that predictability, while comforting, was a strategic weakness. Humanity's adaptive approach to warfare, like their technology, embraced uncertainty as an advantage rather than a flaw. As the first joint Human Confederation research vessels prepared for launch, Admiral Martinez reflected on how completely their relationship had changed. "They came to teach us," he said during the commissioning ceremony. "Instead, we learned from each other." The crystal matrices of these new ships pulse with a harmony that neither civilization could have achieved alone. Perfect and imperfect structures working together, creating something entirely new. It was a physical manifestation of how far both species had come from their first hostile encounter. 1 year after humanity's revelation of their quantum crystalline technology, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Great Hall of the new Galactic Congress, built jointly by human and Confederation engineers, stood as a testament to this transformation. Its walls incorporated both perfect and imperfect crystal matrices, creating an ever-shifting harmony that symbolized the new era of cooperation. Dr. Chen stood at the podium, addressing representatives from across known space. The same beings who had once dismissed Earth as primitive now listened intently to her every word. "The universe," she began, "isn't a puzzle to be solved. It's a mystery to be explored. Our greatest strength isn't in achieving perfection, but in our capacity to adapt and grow." The Quantum Integration Project, led by Commander Kumar and his Confederation counterpart, Xitel, had produced revolutionary developments. Their ships now incorporated what they called adaptive matrices, systems that could shift between perfect and imperfect states as needed, combining the stability of Confederation technology with the flexibility of human innovation. "We were trapped by our own success," reflected High Counselor Zixrel, watching a demonstration of the new hybrid technology. "Each achievement made us more certain that our path was the only path. Humanity showed us that certainty can become a cage." Admiral Martinez, now serving as Earth's representative to the Joint Fleet Command, had witnessed the transformation firsthand. The Confederation's rigid hierarchy had given way to a more dynamic structure, one that valued innovation and adaptation alongside tradition and stability. Their perfect crystal ships now moved with an almost organic fluidity, incorporating principles learned from humanity's chaotic approach. In research centers across the galaxy, human and alien scientists worked together, discovering that the interaction between perfect and imperfect systems created possibilities neither civilization had imagined. They found that quantum resonance could be used to terraform hostile planets, heal devastating injuries, and even begin to understand the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. "The flaw in our thinking," Dr. Chen explained to a group of young researchers from both civilizations, was believing that progress meant eliminating imperfection. True progress comes from understanding how to use imperfection constructively. The greatest change, however, wasn't technological, it was philosophical. The Confederation's younger generations embraced humanity's perspective on innovation, while humans learned to appreciate the value of the aliens' methodical approach. Together, they began exploring the galaxy not as teachers and students, but as partners in discovery. A new threat emerged that proved the value of this partnership. When a quantum anomaly threatened to destabilize a vital star system, it was the combination of Confederation precision and human adaptability that found a solution. Perfect crystals provided the power, while imperfect matrices created the necessary flexibility to contain and redirect the anomaly. "We thought we were coming to lift humanity up," Zixrel admitted during the crisis's resolution ceremony. "Instead, Humanity reminded us that true strength comes from lifting each other up, from combining our different approaches rather than insisting one must dominate. The quantum resonance technology that had once been a weapon became a tool for exploration and understanding. Joint fleet vessels could now navigate regions of space that had previously been considered impossible to traverse, their hybrid crystal systems allowing them to adapt to conditions that would have overwhelmed either civilization's technology alone. In her Antarctic lab, now a primary training center for both human and Confederation scientists, Dr. Chen continued pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Every discovery, she told her students, shows us how much more there is to learn. The moment we think we know everything is the moment we stop growing. Admiral Martinez, watching Earth's night sky now filled with ships of both civilizations, reflected on how far they'd come. "We didn't just change their view of us," he said to General Patel. "We changed their view of themselves. And in doing so, we changed too." The final proof of this transformation came when the first truly joint colony was established. Unlike previous Confederation expansions, this one celebrated diversity in approach, in technology, and in thinking. The colony's quantum crystal core combined perfect and imperfect matrices in ways that would have been considered heretical just a year before. As the galaxy entered this new era, the lesson became clear. True advancement didn't come from pursuing perfection or embracing chaos, but from understanding how both could work together. Humanity's primitive approach had revealed a fundamental truth that the Confederation, for all their advancement, had forgotten: that in an infinite universe, there is no single path to the stars. The laughter that had once echoed through Confederation halls at humanity's expense was replaced by a deeper appreciation. They had learned that sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from those you least expect, and that true strength lies not in perfection, but in the ability to adapt, to change, and to grow together.